Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed.
Hear me?
You are listening to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. My name is Christian Taylor, or aka DJ Apollo, and thank you for clicking on today's episode. Now in this one, as I promised in my last recording where I covered Angel, I promised that I would get back into the topic of music, hopefully, and here we are. I've decided it's high time I give another amazing album a review, and the album today that we're going to be talking about is a band I'm just starting to get into, and a band I'm pretty late to the party on, all things considered. The band in question is The Police, and the album we are going to cover is Ghost in the Machine, which from my understanding is that many of the Police fans consider Ghost in the Machine to be this band's best album. Now, this is actually a very, very good album. I've listened to a good majority of this album, and I gotta tell you, it's really good. I love the sound, I love the songs on this, so I knew when I was thinking about the next album I wanted to review, I knew that I had to cover this one next. Now, The Police as a band, I think they're pretty good. My father got to see this band live, I believe 2 times, and he's played Police music in our house my whole childhood, so I feel like I was destined to get into this band at some point in my life, and here we are. And the very first song that I heard by them that got me interested in them was actually one of their most famous songs, which is Every Breath You Take, which has recently, well not recently, like last year I believe it was, this song hit 1 billion views on YouTube, and a year or 2 before that, this song hit 1 billion views on Spotify, I believe. So this song has made major impacts, and the lead singer for this band, Sting, has said that he has gotten fan letters from fans telling him that they've played this song like at their weddings or any kind of, very special social events. So this is probably in the top 5 most famous Police songs. And I absolutely love this track, I really do. I thought it was pretty cool. This song was actually featured in the TV show Stranger Things. This song was used in the season 2 finale when our main cast of characters, which are kids, are going to their school dance in the fictional town of Hawkins, Indiana. And that song was brilliantly used during that scene because, Stranger Things takes place in the 80s. So I thought that was a very good song choice. It's a very good, slow dance song. But I think it's pretty funny how a lot of people think that song is romantic. But if you really, listen to the lyrics of that song, you'll realize that this is not a love song by any means. Sting himself has said that he thinks it's really funny that so many people have used this song at their weddings, thinking that it's some kind of love song, but in reality, it's literally about an ex-boyfriend stalking his ex-girlfriend from a distance, Every step, every breath you take, I've been watching you. I mean, it's literally a stalker song, but nevertheless, I love that track, and that was the song that got me interested in this band in the first place. And like I said, my father played their music all the time, and I slowly started getting into them as I got older. Just this last Christmas, I got their album Ghost in the Machine on CD, and I kind of pushed off not listening to it. Only a few months ago that I really start getting into this album. I gotta say, I fell in love with this album pretty fast. Once I gave it a shot. And dude, just the sound on this album, it's strong, but it really gives this sense that the album's not too clean, and it just has this early 80s, just jazz feel to it, so many of the musics, have jazz, effects in it and everything, and just the songs are pretty kick-ass, I'm not gonna lie. And the person who actually convinced me to give this album another try was a YouTuber named Stasha ASMR. I used to watch her YouTube channel once in a while a couple of years ago, and I remember she did this really cool video once where she went through this little crate of records that a family friend gifted her. And when she was looking through the vinyls, she fangirled out when she found a couple of Police albums, and one of them was Ghost in the Machine. And her reaction is going through the album, looking through it, reading off all the songs, saying that this album holds like some of her favorite songs, you know, and everything. And once seeing her reaction to that album made me think, okay, maybe I am missing out on something. So I decided to really give this album a shot. And once I really started listening to it, I realized, wow, Stasha was very correct. So I don't know if she'd ever listen to this recording, but Stasha, if you ever somehow listen to this, thank you for inspiring me to get into the Police. They are a great band, and I love your YouTube videos. You do great work, and you should definitely do another Record Hall video, because that Record Hall clip you did was very, very cool. She also fangirled over other vinyl records like the Rolling Stones, Queen, and she actually convinced me to give another album a listen as well. One of the other vinyls that Stasha found in her record haul was Sting's very first solo album called The Dream of the Blue Turtles, which was his first solo album. So I decided to give that one another listen as well, and man, I have fallen in love with it instantly. Side A of that album, it's just nothing but pure goodness. If You Love Someone, Set Them Free is definitely my favorite song off of that album, and that album I will listen to just to hear that song one more time. And I bought Sting's first solo album at a record store for $10 in St. Louis. The story is that my parents and I saw Kiss last year at the Epic Center in St. Louis, and we got there early. We had some time to kill, so we went to one of the St. Louis record stores. And I was just looking through this giant room of vinyl records, trying to find some cheap ones. It was pretty tricky. Like, all the good stuff was very high priced, but I managed to walk out of there with two very good albums. And one of the albums I found was The Dream of the Blue Turtles. I got that for $10. And the second album that I walked out of that store with was Roy Orbison's last solo album that was released a year after he died, called Mystery Girl. And this album features one of Roy's most famous singles, in my opinion, which is called You Got It. That is a great song, and I'm a huge Roy Orbison fan, so I walked out of there with two very good albums for very cheap prices as well, so that was a good deal in my opinion. And Sting's first solo album I've really been getting into. Like, I'll put it on my turntable every once in a while, and it's a good listen. Sometime I need to flip it over and listen to side B. I'll have to do that at some point. And another reason I was really getting into the Police is because the Walmart I work at plays a lot of their songs, you know, throughout the shifts. Like, over the last couple of weeks, I've actually heard some Police songs while I was working, and some of the songs that I heard was tracks like Don't Stand So Close to Me, Message in a Bottle, and Roxanne. All three are pretty big, famous songs by this band. And what's pretty funny is, over in the vinyl section at the Walmart I work at, we actually have a Police album, which is this like 2-record greatest hits set, and it's $45. And I'm not kidding. There are some times I really have to fight the urge, you know, to buy that album. You know, it's like I never want to spend close to $50 on a vinyl album, you know, but still, you know, I looked it over. It's got like all their hits on there. It's hard trying to fight the urge to buy that vinyl, because I love getting me some vinyl, man. Vinyl's awesome. And I'm very happy it's making a comeback. You know, I never thought I'd live to see the day that vinyl makes a huge comeback, but again, here we are, you know. So that is some of the reasons to why I got into this band, and I gotta tell you, they're very good band, left a huge impact. So, who are the Police, you ask? Well, let's take a look here. The Police was an English rock band formed in London in 1977. Within a few months of their first gig, the lineup settled as Sting, who was lead vocals, bass guitar, primary songwriter. You have Andy Summers, guitar, and Stuart Copeland, drums and percussion, and remained unchanged for the rest of the band's history. The Police became globally popular in the late 70s and early to mid 80s. emerging in the British new wave scene. They play a style of rock influenced by punk, reggae, and jazz. The Police have sold over 75 million records, making them one of the best-selling bands of all time. The band won a number of music awards, including 6 Grammy Awards, 2 Brit Awards, winning Best British Group once, and an MTV Video Music Award. In 2003, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 4 of their 5 studio albums appeared on the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. The band was included among both Rolling Stones and VH1's list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. So, as you can see, even though this band was not so long-lived, they left a very huge impact that is still there to this very day. I'm sure many bands took a lot of influences from the Police, and there is no denying that they were one magnificent group who had many stories to tell with the awesome songs that they created, and their songs continue to influence us to this very day. So, what is the Ghost in the Machine album by the Police? So, it is the 4th studio album by the Police. The album was released on October 2nd, 1981 by AM Records. The songs were recorded between January and September of 1981 during sessions that took place at AIR Studios in Montreal and Lee Studio in Quebec, assisted by record producer Hugh Padgham. Ghost in the Machine topped the UK Albums Chart and peaked at number 2 on the US Billboard 200. The album produced the highly successful singles Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Invisible Sun, and Spirits in the Material World, with a 4th single, Secret Journey, also being released in the US. Ghost in the Machine was listed at number 322 on the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. The album was reissued in 1983 on CD. Now, the songs that are contained on Ghost in the Machine are Spirits in the Material World, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Invisible Sun, Hungry for You, Demolition Man, Too Much Information, Rehumanize Yourself, One World, Not 3, Origami, Secret Journey, and Darkness. And I gotta tell you, my favorite songs out of the 11 tracks that are featured on this album, my favorite was actually the first 3. My favorite song off of this album is definitely Invisible Sun, and Spirits in the Material World and Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic are just as good, man. Those 3 tracks, like, I'm not surprised that those were the singles for this. Invisible Sun, though, man, that is such an amazing song. I'm just sad I'm never going to get a chance to see the Police live. I'm sure this song is a whole nother level when you hear it live. And I thought it was pretty cool. I actually watched this really cool YouTube video once with Police drummer Stuart Copeland. He does clips on Facebook every now and again, and he likes answering fan mail. And I remember one time he was doing this video where he was talking about someone sent him like a telegram asking like, hey, what is the most hardest song by the Police to perform live? And he said, oh, Spirits in the Material World, no doubt. And he was saying that, the song may sound easy on drums, but it is a nightmare to perform live for all 3 of the members. And Stuart gave a little demonstration, on his drum kit, just showing, it may sound easy, but this song is very hard to play live, and he showed us what you have to do to get the technique on the drumming, like, absolutely spot on correct. And when you watch that clip, you understand, oh yeah, I can understand, this is a very hard song to play live. Nevertheless, this is a pretty good song, and it was a good one to open the album up with. Very, very strong open indeed. So yeah, Spirits in the Material World, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, and Invisible Sun are definitely the top 3 best songs on this record, in my opinion. Very, very good stuff. So, the production and recording. So, after having produced the previous album, which was called Zanyeta Manana, within a tight deadline of 4 weeks under pressure from the record company to deliver an album to the market, the band had decided to loosen up more for a change when it came around to recording Ghost in the Machine. This time, they spent 6 weeks recording at Air Studios in Montserrat, which was, according to drummer Stuart Copeland, a 12-hour flight from the nearest record company. This album marked a change in engineer-co-producer from Nigel Gray, who did the band's albums up to that point, to Hugh Patcham, who is best known for the drum sound he achieved on records by Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins. In fact, for this album, Patcham initiated a technique in which the band was recording together in separate rooms of the Air Studios facility. Andy Summers in the main studio with all his guitars and amplifiers, Sting in the control room with his bass directly plugged into the desk, and Copeland in the dining room with his drums to get a live feel. This method would be repeated for the next album. Ghost in the Machine was the first Police album to feature heavy use of keyboards and saxophone. Besides keyboards, the 20-minute section comprising Hungry for You, Through One World includes many saxophone harmonies, while the opening to Secret Journey showcases the Roland GR300 guitar synthesizer. The band's frontman Sting brought in Gene Brussel to record the piano parts on the demo of Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. However, the group could not better it with the equipment available at Air Studios. They ended up using the demo as the backing track for the official recording, with drummer Stuart Copeland and guitarist Andy Summers dubbing their parts on. Sting also played all the saxophone parts on the album. Summers recalled, "I have to say I was getting disappointed with the musical direction around the time of Ghost in the Machine. With the horns and scythes coming in, the fantastic new trio feel, all of the really creative and dynamic stuff was being lost. We ended up backing a singer doing his pop songs." The album opens with Spirits in the Material World, featuring keyboards dubbed over Summers' reggae-inspired guitar licks. Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic features piano, a strong Caribbean vibe, and an extended non-verbal vocal solo at the end. Invisible Sun is a mixture of slow, steady verses, a bombastic chorus, and several guitar solos. Hungry for You is sung mostly in French, with the bass and saxophones both repeating a single 8-note melody for the length of the song, while the guitar maintains a steady beat. Demolition Man, the band's longest song, almost 6 minutes in length, features a strong bass line and saxophone, and was written by Sting while staying at Peter O'Toole's Irish mansion. The song was originally given to Jamaican singer Grace Jones, who released her edition on Nightclubbing earlier in 1981. The Police then recorded a hard rock version for Ghost in the Machine due to their dissatisfaction with Jones's performance. A solo recording by Sting became a belated hit in 1993 at the theme song for an action film of the same title starring Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Manfred Mann's Earth Band also recorded a version, rearranged and with extensive use of synthesizers in 1982 for their Somewhere in Africa album. Too Much Information, Rehumanize Yourself, and One World Not Three are centered around multi-saxophone riffs. As with Landlord and Dead End Job, Copeland had written both music and lyrics for Rehumanize Yourself, but Sting rejected the lyrics and replaced them with those he composed himself. The final 3 songs, Omega Men, Secret Journey, and Darkness, return to the darker sound which opens the album. Now we're going to be getting into artwork and titling. Much of the material on the album was inspired by Arthur Koestler's The Ghost in the Machine, which also provided the title. It was the first Police album to bear an English language title. In his younger days, Sting was an avid reader of Koestler. Koestler said he was slightly tickled by the homage In the 2012 Can't Stand Losing You, Surviving the Police documentary, Summers commented that the title felt fitting as he was going through a divorce at the time and the band was not getting along during production. The subsequent Police album, Synchronicity, was inspired by Koestler's The Roots of Confidence, which mentions Carl Jung's theory of synchronicity. The cover art for Ghost in the Machine features a 16-segment display-inspired graphic that depicts the heads of the 3 band members, each with a distinctive hairstyle. The album's cover is ranked at number 45 on VH1's 50 Greatest Album Covers. Now we're going to be getting into commercial performance. Ghost in the Machine debuted at number 1 on the UK Albums Chart and spent 3 weeks atop the chart. In the United States, it reached number 2 on the Billboard 200. Omega Men was chosen by AM Records to be the first single from the album, but according to Andy Summers, Sting refused to allow its release in single form. Invisible Sun was ultimately released as the album's first single in the UK and was a success, reaching number 2 on the UK singles chart, even though its music video was banned by the BBC for including footage of the conflict in Northern Ireland. Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic was released as the album's second overall single and as the first single in most other territories, becoming the band's 4th UK number 1 and peaking at number 3 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Spirits in the Material World followed, peaking at number 12 in the UK and number 11 in the US. Secret Journey was released as a single in the US, where it charted at number 46. The reception for Ghost in the Machine was mostly positive. Rolling Stone's Deborah Cohen found that the Police displayed more commitment, more real anger on Ghost in the Machine than ever before. And Record Mirror, Robin Smith praised the album as the best thing they've ever done, noting its overall sense of dedication and quality, and more varied range of musical styles. Robert Christgau of the Village Voice remarked, "It's pointless to deny that they make the chops work for a common good. Both their trickiness and their simplicity provide consistent pleasure here." Smash Hits critic Mark Ellen was less receptive, demanding it a patchy album with both dazzling singles and filler tracks reminiscent of the band's earlier material. Ghost in the Machine was voted the 24th best album of 1981 in the Village Voice's Paz and Job Critics poll. In retrospective review of Ghost in the Machine, Greg Prado of AllMusic observed that the Police had streamlined their sound to focus more on their pop side and less on their trademark reggae rock. He found that the album was not a pop masterpiece, but it did serve as an important stepping stone between their more direct early work and their more ambitious latter direction. J.D. Constantine, writing in 2004's The Rolling Stone Album Guide, stated that well-modulated compositions such as Spirits in the Material World and Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic reflected the band's continued experimentation with more dynamic rhythms. In 2000, Q placed Ghost in the Machine at number 76 on its list of the 100 greatest British albums ever. Pitchfork ranked Ghost in the Machine at number 86 on its 2002 list of the 100 best albums of the 1980s. It was ranked at number 322 in the Rolling Stones 2003 list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, and at number 323 in a 2012 update of the list. The Guardian featured the record in its 2007 list of the 1,000 albums to hear before you die. Writing in 2021 for the Best Albums of 1981 list, Paste magazine contributor Sabi Reyes Korkani observed that there are albums that envelope you in an absence so unlike anything else you've ever heard that listening to them is like taking a trip to another world, further describing Ghost in the Machine as the most sonically unified work of the Police's career, a seamless and revolutionary integration of reggae into the band's style that, like Talking Heads and Peter Gabriel, established a futurist vision of pop that could absorb sounds from all over the world. In some ways, pop music has operated from the same premise ever since, and that covers all the notes that I have about the reception and overall feedback the world gave when Ghost in the Machine was released to the world for everybody to listen to. Now, some of them very positive. We had a few negatives in there, but I think with anything that's going to be the case. Unfortunately, with most things, you can't please everybody, but I think at the end of the day, a good portion of people considered this to be the band's best album, and I firmly believe that as well. Ghost in the Machine is a very fantastic album that very much has that amazing 80s, sound that you just can't deny, It's just the ingenuity in this album, the creative liberties that were taken, it's just a masterpiece, and it just has this brilliant sound that I love to hear every now and then. I think all three of the band members, Stuart Copeland, Andy Summers, and Sting, these guys are all extremely talented, and part of me kind of wishes that these guys would get together and tour as the Police just one more time, because I am extremely heartbroken I never got to see this band live. If my memory serves me right, these guys reunited back in 2008, I think, for like a tour. But I mean, that was it. Now, I don't know the reasoning why the band separated, but I think they've all had very amazing solo careers. I mean, Sting's done a good amount of albums as well, and I believe Copeland's done a lot of work too. But nevertheless, the Police have made a huge impact on rock and roll, and their music is really good. And I think Sting is one hell of a songwriter. Like, his music, like, man, it's pretty dark and deep if you really start to study, some of the lyrics to the songs. But I am extremely honored that I got this pretty cool opportunity to talk about this album. I'm sure my dad will approve of this album choice. He's a big Police fan, and he's the reason why I'm into so many, different bands, thanks to my dad's music wisdom. He knows a good band when he hears them, and he likes passing that music along to me. And maybe one day, if I have children, I'll pass it down to them as well. That's what music does, man. It just brings us all together, Like, I love talking music. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. I think music is a beautiful thing, and music is the one language that all of us understand. And music, it just brings us all together, it really does. I love talking music. It's one of my favorite talking points. You bring that up at a dinner table, I will talk about music for hours upon hours. I'll never get tired or bored of talking about music. So I actually ended up Googling just right quick, like what led to the Police band breaking up. So here is what Google says. A few factors led to the 1984 breakup of the Police. Despite being at the height of their fame when they disbanded, internal disagreements continued to cause tension, and their differing ages also played a fundamental role. Unlike a majority of bands who rose up in the same scenes, the Police didn't grow up together. Now, that's actually a pretty important factor to take into consideration. Like, take the Beatles, for example. Yes, I know they broke up, but those guys, that band was theoretically together for a decade, And, John, George, and Paul kind of grew up together, Like, Paul met John when, like, Paul was, 15, I think, when he met John. And John was, I think, 16, 17, something like that. So they met when they were teenagers, so they kind of grew up together a little bit. Like, Paul McCartney and George Harrison were childhood best friends. In Paul's words, they were mates in school, friends. Like, they grew up together. And once the Beatles formed, they really grew as people, the four of them, Like, Ringo, the drummer, said it best, it's like he was an only child, and then he had three brothers, and the four of them were very close. I think that was the reason why the Beatles lasted as long as they did, But with the police, these guys were only friends, for a good amount of years, and they didn't grow up together. And it seems to me, the arguments between them just kept getting worse. There was a lot of disagreements about what kind of music and stuff they wanted to make. And I think, and keep in mind, this is a reason that the Foo Fighters almost ended when they were recording their album one by one. There was just a ton of disagreements. They couldn't agree on a sound or what they were trying to achieve with this album, and that created a lot of tension between the band members that almost ended the Foo Fighters. And that was the case with the Police. It's just these guys couldn't agree. The fighting kept going, so they just decided to break it up. But maybe it was for the best. It sucks when a band breaks up. It's like, my dad told me a good comparison for this is that with bands, they're like marriages. Like, you guys are signing a document that you have to work together, to make something together, and if there's disagreements, it's like there's tension between you guys. If you can't get along, then the teamwork is just not going to work anymore, So it is sad the band broke up, but they left a big lasting impact, that's for sure. So yeah, I just wanted to cover that right quick. So that's a good bit of information there. But that is going to wrap it up covering Ghost in the Machine by the Police. I hope you enjoyed this recording, and I personally want to thank you for listening to this. I am planning on covering music yet again for the next recording. I don't know which album I'll cover next. I'll have to really think about it, but I do have a backup list to pick from in the event if I can't find something. But whatever I pick, it'll be a good subject, and we will have ourselves some more fun talking about it, just like we always do. So, until next time, my name is Christian Taylor, or aka DJ Apollo, and you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.